Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Real Estate Unfiltered. I'm Marley Russell. I'm a real estate agent based out of Roanoke, Virginia, and I've been waiting for this guest for a couple weeks now. Super excited. I told her the first time I met her in person that I feel like she kind of reminds me of Miranda Lambert. She said she sings that way, I think. So maybe we could get her to sing a little bit, but I'm just kidding. Without further ado, Catherine Pignatella, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. We were just kind of chatting a little bit about it's been a long week and it's only Tuesday.
Yes.
So, but thank you so
Into
much
the
for saying
holidays. Yeah.
yes. Holidays makes it crazier on top of a crazy week with real estate.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but I guess first things first, though, thank you so much for joining and saying yes that you would do this. I'm so excited to have you on here. Um,
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
You're just saying that because you're on camera, but that's okay. Uh,
Oh, really? It's a little break for me anyways.
but I am excited to have a mom realtor on here too, because, and I will say more power to you. I only have one. You have four. How
Actually, I have 5.
are you counting the husband or?
No,
Okay.
I have 5 little human children.
Oh my
Plus
gosh.
the husband, so maybe that counts as 6.
Wait, how did I miss? Now I feel really bad. How did I
No,
miss
it's
the third
okay.
one?
Sometimes we lose count of them too.
Oh my gosh. So wait, what are the ages then?
So we have 9. Well, he'll be 9 next week, and then 5, 4, 2, and 1. So it's crazy.
How silly question, but how do you do it?
Everybody asks me that. I don't. I'm just like everybody else. We're all just doing the best we can.
Well, I mean, you're standing upright, you aren't going crazy, so I feel like
Yeah.
that's half the battle.
Yeah.
Um, oh my gosh. So wait, were you in real estate before you had
Um,
your little ones, or did you get into it while you were having all your little
well,
kiddos?
kind of both. I actually started back like in '06
Oh,
or
okay.
maybe it was like '05, '06. And I didn't have my license, but I worked for a very well-known realtor in the area, and there was this huge development that was going to be built at the lake, and they were selling houses in there. And so I worked in their office. I did all the MLS listings and everything, and I was gearing up to get my license, and then the market just crashed,
Oh
and the
man,
developer went under, and the property is actually still for sale out here.
really?
And my dad was like, you have to get a job that is like a guaranteed paycheck. So I went into healthcare.
Mm.
Um, and then I did that for 12 years. And then when I had my third child in 2018, I actually made the decision to quit, and it was really hard. I had already gotten my license. I just needed something else other than healthcare. It just was too monotonous, and I needed something different. And so then I decided to stay home and pursue real estate.
Awesome. How was that transition then? Because are you from the area, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Okay.
I grew up in Roanoke,
Okay.
and then my husband is from Franklin County, Smith Mountain Lake area, and so I it makes me feel old, but I've been out here now for almost 20 years. It's crazy. And so, but I was doing, in '06, I was doing real estate out here primarily with that agent. I was basically like her assistant.
Mhm. That's awesome though. Now,
Yeah.
how did that kind of help your transition from healthcare into real estate? Do you feel like I'm always curious about this because I feel like sometimes folks say it has helped being from the area and some folks say it doesn't really matter. Do you feel like it kind of helped you kind of gain the business, or do you think it didn't really matter and you still had to kind of go through all the,
Yeah.
you
It
know,
didn't
build
really
up?
matter. Like at one point in the back of my mind, I thought like, oh, this will really, I can link these two careers together. They'll, overlap, but really it didn't. And honestly, I think that's a good thing, because I don't know if I would have want to mix that people with that, from that
Mhm.
job in with this too much. It was probably better to keep them very separate. But my first photographer that I used, she was
Mhm.
one of my coworkers.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so that was kind of funny because I was over my office in healthcare. I was the team lead. And so she was in my office. And then I was still kind of doing both. And
Mhm.
she was I would hire her to do my photography. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I had a student. I did respiratory therapy, and I had a student come through, and he was a realtor that left real estate to become a respiratory therapist. I was doing the opposite. And he was also a real estate photographer, and I used him as well.
That's
Um,
cool.
I think he, I think he's since gotten out of both respiratory and real estate. But so they did overlap to some degree, but yeah, totally separate now.
That's kind of funny. It's kind of like you're saying like hi bye is like crossing
Yeah.
paths literally that way. But I'm always curious about that because I'm a transplant. I'm from Northern Virginia. So once when me and my husband met, I was at Radford, he was at Tech. And he's from the area. His parents have been here for
Okay.
like almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Um, so it was always kind of funny, especially like buying our first home and like renting and stuff like that. I would always be like, is this a good area? Do you know? Because this was like what, 8 years ago, 9 years ago at this point. And he's like, I don't know, I've never been over there. I'm like, what do you mean you haven't been over there? You're from this area. But as we kind of got through the process, I'm like, and then we lived over on South Roanoke County side. It kind of made more sense because if you don't have to go over to North County, you don't really go over that way,
Right.
and vice versa. So I get it more now. But in the process, I'm like, how do you not know where we are? um, but I kind of wasn't sure with folks who grew up in the area if that was like easier, harder in the sense of like you have a lot more pressure because everyone to do
Yeah.
a really good job. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like it might be easier, you might get business, but you also have a lot more pressure at the same time of it. But
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
but now you're out in the lake area though, living out there because you have a
Yeah.
boatload of acreage, right?
Yes. Yes. We had to get a lot of land for these kids to run wild.
Yeah, you need a lot of room.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah, and actually, that also is kind of how I got into real estate. We were just looking and looking and looking, and I think I just about wore our realtor out, and she just kind of was like, "Done." And so I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna get my license, and then I don't have to like bother anybody. We can go when it suits us and whatnot." So that was,
No,
kind of
that
another reason.
that's always a nice perk of that. It's like you're legally going into houses and like properties instead of like my
Yeah.
dad, he would literally, um, probably shouldn't say this, but hopefully there's like a statutory limit on statutory limitation or whatever it's called. Because he would take me and my three siblings and my mom, and we would be like going and looking at houses. I vividly remember like literally him putting my sister like on the second level through a window, and she like went through to go open the door. And then looking back, I'm like, that's not okay. Shouldn't be doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's like I'm sure your family was not the only one doing it.
No, it was wild. But now he's like, always jokes with me whenever he's looking at houses up in Nova, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to go in and look around." I'm like, "Dad, no. I will come up and let you in the door, but like don't do
Yeah,
that."
yeah.
Everyone has a Ring, camera doorbell
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Please
Oh, yeah.
don't. Last thing anyone needs. Um, but so I know you were like, I don't, whenever I asked you like how do you do it with all those kiddos, but like you've got to have some type of a process or like schedule or something you go by. But like how do you balance it though? Because me balancing it with just one kid, I my head would be spinning with five.
It really is, and a lot of times there might be somebody like screaming in the background of a phone call, and I'm like hiding in my closet trying to like get peace and quiet. But honestly, they just know the drill. A lot of times they will go with me to showings because it's so random. You can't really
Mhm.
plan.
Nope.
Um, for instance, last weekend, I had a babysitter lined up. I had clients coming into town. I knew exactly when they were coming. And on the way to town, they were like, we are running 2 hours behind. And I was like, oh no,
Yep.
because my sitter had to leave. I was like, I can't take all these kids with me.
Mhm.
My husband is self-employed, so he saved the day and came home and helped me out. And that's been really nice because we can kind of work together. Like a lot of times real estate is not during his work hours and vice versa. So we try to, cover for each other. But sometimes my kids are with me and they just
Mhm.
know, like, and they'll be like, did you sell the house, Mom? Or, like and they'll like cheer. I'll be like, guys, it went under contract. And they're like, yay, like, go mom. And then and like, they know the houses, because you have to go back to them like a handful of times and whatnot. And they'll be like, are we going to such and such house? And they
That's
know.
so
I mean,
cute.
it's kind
Yep.
of sad, but they play games and stuff in the car. And, most showings are pretty quick. So people
Mhm.
kind of know. Sometimes I'm sure, people show up, they
Mhm.
don't even get out of the car. They're like, nope,
Yep.
this is not it. And you're like, okay, well, see you later.
Yeah.
So very rarely is your showing going to take too terribly long, but
Yeah.
they do really well if they understand that sometimes they just have to go with me. There's just,
Yep. There's
um,
no way around it. But
no way
that's
around
so
it. And actually, the crazy market, the frenzy, I would just
probably
be
just stayed
very
in the
honest
car.
with yeah, I would be honest with my clients and I would be like, look, if there was something that you see, like, we have to go see it right away. And
Mhm.
chances are my kids are going to be with me.
Mhm. Yep. Well, I feel like
And
the pandemic kind of made that mm, I don't know what word I'm trying to use. Like it's not taboo, but like, whenever you're working on a call and like wanting it quiet and like no dogs
oh,
barking
yeah,
and no kids making sound, like it's so
right.
normal now.
It
And it's
became normal.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes it a lot nicer. But that's so cool. You have like literally your whole like cheer team in the back of the car being like, "You're under contract." I can just like picture it now. Oh my gosh. No, but that's
But
cool.
then
And
there's times where I'll say, "Oh, I just got to run down here and do this real quick," and they'll go, "Oh, mom,"
yep.
but they always get over it. And they've also learned that if they sit really nicely for me, it usually results in some kind of like ice cream or some kind
Mhm.
of treat. So they've caught on to that, and that works really well.
Hey, I'm all for the bribery. Like,
Yeah,
it's fine. Like like, within reason.
yeah,
But, like, ice cream, french fries, yes.
yeah. They know.
Uh,
They know.
oh my gosh, that's adorable. But no, I mean, you're right, though. Some of those showings, you don't even go in, which I honestly
Yeah,
don't hate because they know exactly what they want or what they don't want.
yeah.
The ones that are kind of, like, tricky.
I've had a Yeah, I've had a few where the people don't even want to get out of the car, and it makes me feel really bad because the homeowner like cleaned their house and got everything
Yeah.
ready, and the agent's like, "How did the showing go?" And you're like, "Oh gosh, they hated it so
Yeah.
much they didn't even want to come in." And I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you say that in a nice
Yeah.
way?
I mean, you can say anything in a nice way. It's just on how you word it. I feel like
Yeah,
the harder version of that is whenever, and I've had to recently deal with this, and it's like the owner is still there.
hmm,
And then it's like they actually don't want to go in your house. That's
yeah,
that's the awkward part because you can kind of phrase it in a better way, like on the phone or like texting. But whenever you're in person, it's like, okay, how am I going to word this so it doesn't offend them in any way?
yes, that's
Oh
exactly
man,
right.
yeah,
Hold on, I've got knocking really quick. Hold on.
you're good.
Sorry.
You're fine. Oh my gosh, how old was that one?
They will find me. It doesn't matter. That was my little girl. She's 5.
Oh my gosh. That made me think of Liam Neeson in Taken. I will find you.
They will
Oh,
sniff me out. It does not
mhm.
matter where I am.
Yeah. My little one finds me in the bathroom and he's just like trying to open the door. I'm like, "Can I just have a minute? Like just
Just have a minute.
1 minute, please. I love you, but give me 1 minute." Oh man.
Yep.
So you've been in the industry full time since 2018. Is that what you said then? Okay.
Mhm.
So how did the first 2 years before 2020 kind of go and prepare you for the madness that it was the last 2 years?
Yeah, so I feel like I had a pretty good amount of transactions, enough to get me some good experience, like to get I didn't know I was getting ready for 2020, but it
No
did,
one did.
it did help a lot. Yeah, I cannot even imagine being a new agent and starting during all of that. Like that, it's amazing that all these agents have done that and they've done such a great job because it would have just been so overwhelming. I cannot even imagine.
Hmm. Well, I feel like it's kind of, I always joked about it. It's like you didn't have a minute, and I got in right after that, like right at the end of 2021. So I didn't have the craziness of like literally like the zooming through a house and like basically giving an offer on your way out. Um,
Yeah,
so unless you had a listing, like it must have been so tough for a buyer's agent to kind of go through that market. Because if you were a
it
seller's
was
agent,
it was
it was not easier, but easier in a sense, because you had the
it was
demand.
just really strange. Like, yeah, it was just so strange because everything we knew was just kind of thrown out the window. Like everything we did, writing contingencies and inspections and all this stuff, it was just like you either just overpay, pay full price and drop all of that, or you don't get the house. There was
Mhm,
like just no, and there was multiple offers that were better than what you might have thought was the best, and you're just going, how, and luckily I don't think during that time I had anybody overpay, and that was what I was just concerned about for my
mhm.
clients for the most part, was just getting wrapped up in that competitiveness and just overpaying.
Yeah, yeah. Because then if, God forbid, they needed to leave in a year because of job or because of family or anything, they're gonna be underwater with it, which, I mean, if it was in 2020
Right.
and 2021, you probably weren't gonna have that big of an issue because there's still that demand issue. But I mean, we're getting at that point where it's kind of, at least you tell me, like, because I'm still newer, but like it seems like it's leveling out at least a little bit than what
Definitely.
it was.
Yeah, definitely. And it's much more fair instead of just being one-sided. I
Mhm,
think the buyers definitely have some room to negotiate now. They can, waiving inspections just like scares me to
ugh,
death. Like and people, they just didn't even think about it. Yeah, just waive the inspection. I just want the house. And I'm going, oh my gosh,
yeah,
you know. And the one of the people I use for home inspections, he would text me and say, "Hey, do you have?" And I'm like, "Everybody's waiving home inspections. I'm sorry. It's not that I don't want to use you. I
mhm,
don't have. Everyone's just not including it in the contract, and it was just really wild. I had one house. They ended up turning around and selling it again pretty quickly because I think it needed a new well after all of that, and they
oof,
didn't do an inspection on the well. And I'm
yeah,
like,
that,
that's what you guys wanted to do at the time. So,
yep, that is that and septic. We had this conversation a couple weeks back, but like that is no joke, especially if like you need an entirely new system. Like one person I know up in Nova had to do that for their house that they were selling, and it was $70,000. And I'm just
yeah,
like,
you get into
that's
big money, and that's not something that everyone can just turn around and
no,
pay for. So, I mean,
no,
that's when people started just, going all in and dropping all those inspections and whatnot. That it scary.
yeah. At that point, I think I would just like build an outhouse. At that point,
Yeah.
like, like I'll just save up. It's fine.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, because I was talking about that, like with the home inspections and contingencies being dropped and stuff like that to a home inspector actually. And I was asking him, I was like, how did that kind of go? Because clearly that kind of dropped off their income and their how busy they were. And he was like, it
Mm-hmm.
did, but at the same time, a lot of folks, I guess, for at least for him, were doing like after purchase home
Having
inspections.
them come back. Yeah.
So I mean, there's that, but it's also not everyone still does that. So just kind of crazy.
Right. Well,
Um,
and I knew I had one house and I just went ahead and said, you know what, I just had my seller go ahead and do the home inspection.
mhm,
And I just said all the repairs will be done. I just put that
mhm,
in the listing. And so I was like, because I knew that people weren't probably going to get home inspections, with their offers. And so I
mhm.
just said, we'll just go ahead and it would make me feel better, just to have it done and whatnot. And it worked fine.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome that you did that though, because I feel like not a lot of people would think that way. But I don't know. That's wild. I could not. I don't think I could
Yeah.
ever like buy obviously myself buy a house without a home inspection. Like I'd much rather be out $500-600 than be on a loan however many
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that's always the tricky. I feel like one of the trickiest spots of our job is like we're an advisor. Like it's still up to the client of what they want to do in the end, of if they want to waive it
Mm-hmm.
or if they don't. We just get to tell them all of their options. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there's been times where I'm like, are you sure you don't want to do that? Because I recommend it, but I want to be very clear. Like, I'm recommending it, and if you want to take it out, then okay, we can take it out. I'll listen to you. But that's tough because it inevitably, even if it's not our fault, sometimes comes back on us a little bit.
Right. Yeah. They're going to come to you and say, I should have gotten the inspection
Hmm.
or what, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would always make me very, very nervous. And the funny thing is, I say that, and my husband and I have never gotten one, but he's a
But
contractor.
he's handy though, so like you have a
Yeah.
built-in contractor at home,
So
so it's
he'll,
fine.
he'll, he'll walk through and, look at things, but it's, I would never recommend that to anybody else. They're not very expensive. I mean, they're not when things could be seriously wrong. They're not hugely expensive during the process, and it doesn't hurt. I mean, I think
Mhm.
it's just good to know.
Yep. Yeah.
Definitely you're making a giant purchase and you need to know a lot of information
A
before you make it.
1,000%. So kind of switching gears a little bit and going back to like, showing folks houses and stuff. I always love asking this question because I feel like home inspectors and like real estate agents have the best stories with this. What you know what's coming, I'm sure you do. But
Yeah.
what is like the funniest thing you've found at a showing for a client?
Oh
Funniest,
gosh.
weirdest, creepiest, you name it.
I'm trying to think. Well, I think I told you the thong. There was
Mm.
the thong hanging in the laundry room, and like they had a heads up that we were coming. I'm pretty sure it was like put there. Like,
I feel
um,
like that's a real estate agent like initiation. Like you have to find one of those. Like I found one and I'm just
yeah.
like, why would you have that
I
on the back of a
mean,
doorknob when you know you're going to
yeah,
be
just like
showing a house?
it's just hanging in plain view. Yeah. Um, Most recently, I took some clients to a house, and it was actually it was really sad, but
Mm,
um, they were like, "Oh, don't mind the dog in the living room," and we were like, "Okay." And this is one of my really funny clients, and
mhm,
so they have really great sense of humor. And the poor dog, we got there, the dog definitely should have been probably put to sleep. Like
mm.
it was like 100 years old. It had a diaper on. It was paralyzed, and
Oh,
they were like, "Don't worry, the dog can't get up and like run." Or they were like, "It won't get out." They had it like in a baby gate, like it was going to run away. But then they
oh,
were like, "It's
oh,
paralyzed, and its eyes were fixed, like it didn't blink." Or so we were like, maybe
oh,
it passed away like while we were there. It was really sad, but it was just like really uncomfortable the whole time
yeah.
because we were like, this poor dog. And I think they just really loved the dog and just weren't ready to make that decision. But
Yeah.
I don't really know why they didn't just take it with them.
Yeah. I
It
yeah.
was really just awkward the whole time because it was just kind of looking at us no matter where we walked around. Um, it was just really bizarre. And so my clients and we still kind of joke about the dog, and they ended up buying the house
Did they
actually.
really?
But
I deal with clients
yes,
like that though, that just kind of like you vibe with and they kind of like go with the flow and like it's like a fun
yeah,
process and it's not like there's been some where it's like, okay, I'm trying to make them like even just smile and I will be happy. Like
some
I will
connection.
have succeeded if I made them smile. But how do you, I mean, kind of pivoting, how do you handle kind of maybe like more of like an awkward situation or like maybe a difficult client or actually probably a better question. How do you handle a difficult agent on the other side?
Well, difficult clients. I do have to say, I worked with physicians for 12 years. And I think if you can make it through that, you can work with anybody. God bless them. I mean, they do amazing work. Um, but sometimes they can be difficult to work with. That really gave me tough skin just with that experience.
Mhm.
And then the difficult agents, I've had a lot of those. It's funny now that the market has, are we saying shifted, or I don't even know what we're
I
saying.
don't know.
Um,
We need to find a better
you
term
can
for it, but I don't know.
you can tell that the mood has kind of changed on the other side. Um, you know, I work for my clients, so
Mhm.
and I have a major mama bear like instinct. So when I feel like my clients are getting taken advantage of or done wrong, it's probably unexpected from the other agent, but I'm not going to sit back and just let that happen. I have no problem,
Well, good.
standing up to them or,
Yeah.
yeah. And that I think just comes along with the experience.
Well, I mean that's what every client who's buying needs to have. They need to have someone like that in their corner.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're good. um, but I mean, also that probably comes with the territory of you having like a pack for a family. So um,
Yeah. 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 I get very mama bear. I get very protective. You can ask Kid. I've called him like, they can't do this to my clients,
yep.
Kid.
God bless Kit because I'm sure he's probably looks at his phone and he sees my name on his cell phone and he's like, "What does she want now?" But it's always I just love how I'm sure
Definitely.
I'm sure you have the same kind of relationship and like thought too. It's like I love having someone who because I'm not on a team, so being able to bounce like I
Yeah.
think this is right and this is why I think I'm right.
Right.
But please confirm or deny if I'm right or not, because I want to make sure that I'm not getting my client buyer or seller like down the wrong path. And he usually is like, no, you got it. Like
And
I
he
would change it
will.
a little bit. You know
Yeah,
what?
he will. I mean, and he treats you like you're his only
Yep.
employee. Like there's so many agents at MKB. I'm thinking, no way does he have time to take my call. And he will sit there on the phone with me and like, whatever I need. And I'm
Mhm.
like, he makes you feel like you're literally his
Yeah.
only agent. Like he gives you his full undivided attention. And that's hard to find in this industry.
Yes. No, I completely agree. Um, and honestly, he was a big reason why I chose MKB whenever I was going through because I got my license thinking I was going to go to one brokerage. And then come to find out, which I guess it's kind of common, like not every brokerage takes new agents.
Hmm.
And they don't like, train them up. I didn't even think that whenever I was going through the process. I just like thought, okay, I'm going there. JK, I'm not.
Yeah.
um, and then I like went and I guess they interviewed me, I interviewed them, back and forth like to another one in MKB. And Kid just kind of gave me that like hometown country family like feel. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is what I want on top of like I needed some flexibility with having a kid, having another full-time job, like trying to have a life outside of work.
Right.
Um, so I knew I could get that, but also still get the training. And it's funny how things happen where you think you go into it and you're like dead set on one way, and there's a reason why it doesn't happen that way.
Right. Yeah.
It
I
just
mean, he's amazing. The support from MKB. I have friends who are agents in other brokerages, and we'll talk, and I'm like, Kit is just like, I mean, you can't get any better than Kit.
no,
Like, and they will say like, maybe I should come to MKB, and I'm like, you should.
yeah, he's just got your back, which I appreciate. But I'll stop talking now because I don't want him to
Yeah.
get a big head if he hears this. Um, um, but so those are some interesting finds that you found at, at showings and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, now, what is, someone like me, what is a piece of advice that you would give a newer agent, whether it be like brand new or like a year in, that you wish you would have
Well, I
known?
think you're doing really well. I don't think you need any advice, but
Well, thank you.
gosh.
I always
Um,
like advice and like criticism and like any pointers because I always want to get better. So,
I mean, I'm always open for advice as well. I don't know if I'm in a position to be giving it, but I guess my best advice to like a brand new agent would be always write in like the personal property of what's included, because I learned that the hard way and bought my clients a microwave and a wine fridge the night before
yeah,
closing.
yep,
And they don't even know that I did that. It was like the last minute the agent was like, what do you want to do about these items? You didn't write them in the contract. And I was like, what? I have to write those in the
yep.
contract.
There's so many things that you don't necessarily think about whenever you're not on the agent side.
Right. And
Like,
she was a veteran agent, and she called me baby. She said, "Sorry, baby," and I will just never forget that ever. And I just got my checkbook out, and I said, "What do they want for the? How
yep,
much do I owe?" Just forget we ever had this conversation.
you're you're at that point where you're like, don't call me baby.
Don't
Don't
call me baby. Yeah,
don't call me baby.
it did not sit well.
Well, it's kind of like whenever like in the South, it's like, bless her heart. It's like, no,
Yeah.
no. You don't you don't mean it how cute it sounds.
Right. Yeah, it usually is kind of a nice way to say something else.
Oh yeah. That probably is one thing that I just like all like the little details of everything with the contract and making sure like you write that in and the date, business days and not calendar days, and which that's already written in, but like if you're doing different contracts and different MLSs and stuff like in associations, it's just like there's
It's
so many
different.
little differences that you have to
Yeah.
like be very detail oriented, I
Detail.
feel
I
like.
was gonna say detail
Mhm.
oriented would be
Oh yeah.
my best advice is just pay close attention. A lot of people, they just, as their agent, they're trusting that you've read the information. They're not going to necessarily sit and read each line. Now, you might have
Mhm.
clients that actually do, but they're
Yep.
trusting that you have. And um, so I would say pay attention to detail.
Yeah. I definitely think like the whole reading the words also and not just like the meaning, because I was talking to my husband about this, about stuff, because he's actually going through and like doing the trainings and everything. So there's going to be
That's
like,
so exciting.
yeah, there's going to be competition in the house. So we'll see how that goes. um, but like it really makes sense with the whole like reading the words in the contract and not just the meaning behind it, because
Hmm.
words can mean so many different things, and if you don't write it in, or if you don't write it in a certain way, the less gray area the better, basically, is I
Right.
guess what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. It needs to be
Right.
very clear and concise.
Yes.
But it's always you're always learning, because I feel like every transaction
It's different.
is different. Like there
Yes.
might be some little similarities, but like the clients make it different, the house makes it different, the home inspection makes it different, like it, but that's also the fun part. I
That's
feel
the
like.
part that I love. I
Mhm.
love that no deal is the same.
Mm-mm.
You kind of go into each deal. You might think this is going to be the easiest deal you've ever done, and then somehow it turns into a nightmare or just the unexpected, and you're like, well, I didn't see that coming. But it's no two deals or day is the same, and that's what I like. My old job was like the same thing, 9 to 5
Mhm.
every day, and it just got, I could do it with my eyes closed. In real estate, you don't know, your client
Nope.
might call you at 11 o'clock at night. They might call you at 6 a.m. I mean, you just don't know. And
Yep.
I kind of love just, there's no set schedule or anything. And
Mhm.
um, that's the part that I really like.
Well, that it works so well for someone who's driven and has a plan of attack and likes a challenge. Because you can get all of that, but you can also like take a breather when you need to. Which
Hmm.
ironically, I feel like every time I've said, I want to take a break for a little bit, then it just like goes, zoom, okay. There's like three other things that you need to do. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I have to do it. I have to say yes, because like
Yeah.
I want to do it, but also
Yeah.
when am I going to sleep?
Yeah. I know. I know. And you get through one deal, or and you're like, okay, I can take a deep breath. And then it's like the next one starts going, and then you're like, wait, here I am again.
Yep, exactly. But it's fun. And that's what we signed up for. It's not nine to
Yeah.
five.
Yeah.
So,
No, I love not sitting in an office all day and just being out, looking at houses and whatnot, is just the freedom of like,
yep.
my offices at the hospital, neither of them had windows. And I swear
Oh,
it traumatized me. And so I just love being outside. I love showing land. I just, going to house to house to house, and especially at the lake, just seeing the water and everything. And it's most fun when you get clients that um, have seen the lake online and not in person. And just when they get there and like the look on their face, and they're just like, oh my gosh, this is
hmm.
amazing.
It's beautiful. I love, love, love showing houses up there so much. And
It's fun.
like everyone's like, you had to drive that far? I'm like, I don't care. Like I
It's worth
love
it.
yeah, it is so worth it. You just put on like a good true crime podcast and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Like I got to look at the beautiful lake all day.
Yep, exactly. And some of those houses up there, like I would have never in a million years before I moved down here guessed that like Smith Mountain Lake, right outside of Roanoke, Virginia, would have some of
Yeah.
those massive, beautiful houses like that. And you don't even have to have a beautiful house to have a beautiful spot on the lake,
Yeah.
which is wild to me.
Yeah. I recently had two different clients that relocated here from like way out of state. Um, and I just assumed that they moved here because of the lake. And throughout like our conversation, I realized they didn't even know the lake was here. And so
Really?
I was like, okay, get in your car, follow me.
We're
We're
going. We're
gonna,
going on an
yeah, I was like, I
adventure.
gotta show you the lake. And the one family, they were looking for like a farm, and they wanted a farm. So we looked at like 4 or 5 different farms throughout the weekend, and they were like, okay, we're gonna talk about it. And I realized that they had no idea that the lake was there. And I was
Really?
like, can I just like just show you guys the lake? And they had their kids with them. So I was like, I'm gonna show you this awesome playground,
Mhm.
I just have to show you. And then they got in the car, called me, and they were like, we want to buy a lake house. And so after we had spent all weekend looking at farms, they ended up buying a lake house.
Well, and that just goes to show like having an agent who knows her stuff about the area really helps because they might have ever known. And then they'd be in a farmhouse, which I'm sure would be beautiful, but then being like, dang it, I wish I could be living here instead. But well, I know you have a whole crew at home, so I don't want to take up any more of your time than what you've given me, so I appreciate it.
Sorry, I lost you there for a second.
Oh, you're fine. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Just blame my internet. It's been yeah, it's been fun. Technology is great whenever it works. So,
I know. Ours is not the best out here.
All good. But hey, that's great though. Whenever you want to get away, you can just literally turn off your phone and you're fine.
Yeah.
But I was just saying though, I know I've taken up more than enough of your time, and you have a whole crew waiting for you to probably, hang out, play games, whatever. So where can everyone find you? Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Both. Yeah, Instagram, the MKB Realtor Mom. I try to mix up both because that's all I do, real estate and my kids. And then Facebook. I do have a Facebook page, but I think it might have got like hacked recently. So
Oh
I'm
no.
kind of working. I know. I'm kind of working with Facebook on that at the moment. So I haven't really kept it up because I didn't want anybody to get like if they clicked on anything. So
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for that to get kind of sorted out. But yeah.
Well, I'll make sure in the notes I'll put every place that they can find you.
Yeah.
Um,
Awesome. Thank you so much for having
yeah,
me.
no problem. And guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of Real Estate Unfiltered. Keep an eye out. I still have a ton of guests lined up. Still shocked that so many people want to be on this. So thank you. And thanks, Catherine. We're going to have you on again, I'm sure.
Awesome. Thank you. This is fun.
Bye, guys.